I am making a Fabled deck profile. I played around with this deck for a little bit, and I actually really like it. The only downside of it I have is every once in a while I won't have the right cards to discard, but I do think it is a decent fun deck. But starting off with the monsters, I play 3 copies of the Fabled Chawa. This card has the effect you can discard 1 Fabled monster to then special summon itself, which is really good when you also have one of the 3 Fabled Luri. Fabled Luri has the effect of its discard to summon itself. And I did find out all the Fableds cannot miss timing, and their discard effects are mandatory. Which I found out the hard way when I discarded the Fabled Catsith during my turn going first. Fabled Catsith just has the effect of if it's discarded, you can destroy 1 face-up card on the field. So I destroy my own things to prevent me from playing any further because I use Catsith. Then I play 3 copies of the Fabled Cerberus. Again, if it's discarded, it summons itself. Play 2 copies of Fabled Cruise. If it's discarded, you can target 1 other level 4 or lower Fabled monster and special summon it. 2 copies of the Fabled Debunk. The Fabled Debunk has the effect of if this card's in your graveyard, you can discard 1 Fabled monster and if you do, summon itself, but banishing leaves the field. You can only use this effect of the Fabled Debunk once per turn. Then I play 3 copies of the Fabled Nozuchi. Fabled Nozuchi lets you discard 1 Fabled monster, summon itself from your hand, and if you do, you can special summon a level 2 or lower Fabled monster from your hand. Then I play 2 copies of Fabled Raven. Raven has the effect of you can discard any number of cards from your hand to increase its level by 1, and then it's attacked by 400 per card discarded. Then I play 1 copy of Fabled Kushano. Kushano just has the effect if it's in the graveyard, you can discard 1 card to return it to your hand. Then I play 3 copies of the Fabled Ganashia. The Fabled Ganashia just summons itself with an additional 200 attack when discarded, but it banishes itself and leaves the field. Then I play 3 copies of Fabled Marcosia. Fabled Marcosia has the effect of you can discard up to 2 I believe it has to be Fabled monsters. You can discard up to 2 monsters except for Fabled Marcosia, summon itself, and if you do, it gains 200 attack for each monster discarded. And then if it is discarded, then you can search your deck for a Fabled spell or trap. You will use each effect of Fabled Marcosia once per turn. Then I play 3 copies of Fabled Grimro. Grimro just says if you control a Fabled monster, you can discard it, search your deck for any Fabled monster. And that is it for the monsters. Moving on to the spells, I play the 1 copy of Card Destruction, since this is a deck that revolves around discarding. 1 copy of Monster Reborn, just because Monster Reborn can be an extender at times. 2 copies of Monster Reincarnation, just to discard so you can get back Grimro or any other Fabled monster you might want to have in your hand. Then I play 2 copies of Stairway to a Fabled Realm. When this card's activated, you get to Foolish a Fabled monster. Most times that I would be sending Fabled Kushano to the grave. And then as the other effect of once per turn, you can discard 2 cards. Or you can target 1 Fabled monster in your graveyard, discard 2 cards, and if you do, return that targeted monster to your hand. And can't tell if it's... Let's see. Oh, and it also has the effect of once per turn, if your Fabled monster attacks an opponent's monster and you have less cards in your hand than your opponent does, your monster gains attack equal to the difference in the number of cards times 200 during damage calculation. Only you will use each effect of Stairway to a Fabled Realm once per turn. Then, because it is a discard deck, I play 3 copies of Dark World Dealings. Each player draws a card and then discards a card. And then, to finish off the deck, I play 2 copies of Fabled Treason. Fabled Treason lets you target a Fabled monster in your graveyard with 1 face-up card on the field. You discard a card. If you do, special summon the targeted monster and then destroy the opponent's monster. You summon the monster from grave and then you destroy the targeted card on the field. So what I like to do with this card is I'll target a Fabled monster that's engraved and an opponent's monster that they need at the time, discard a Fabled Catseth, destroy their monster, summon mine, and then Catseth gets to destroy one face-up card in the field. So if they have another face-up card, I can destroy that. And that is it for the main deck. One of the reasons I built Fable was just because of how I've been wanting to play them for a while, but never actually managed to get all the cards until Chapter 1 got released. So for the extra deck, I play the one copy of Crystron Hockey Fibrax, just because this card is kind of mandatory in the extra deck. But essentially, all this does is you can summon a Fabled or a tuner monster from your deck, and defense effects negated. And then during your opponent's turn, during the main phase, you can have it actually tribute itself, or banish itself, I mean. So then special summon your one copy of Formula Synchron in the extra deck. And then Formula Synchron has the effect of, during your opponent's main phase, quick effect, you can use it and other monsters you control to perform a synchro summon. Then I play 3 copies of Fabled Ragin. Ragin just has the effect of if it's synchro summoned, then you can draw until you have 2 cards in hand. So typically if I'm making Fabled Ragin, I would want to empty my hand first. Then I play the 1 copy of TG Hyper Librarian. Every time a monster is synchro summoned, you get to draw 1 card. Then I play 3 copies of Fabled Andwraith. I have thought about taking an Andwraith out for a Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, but I like 3 Andwraith at the moment, and its effect is you can only use each of its effects once per turn. And its effects are, if it's special summoned, then you can activate its effect to draw 2 cards and discard 1, but your opponent can negate this effect by discarding 1 card. And then if a monster goes from your opponent's hand to the graveyard, once per turn you can summon that monster to your field in defense position. Typically, I like this card because if your opponent activates Ghost Ogre and they aren't using it on Andwraith, then Andwraith can actually summon that Ghost Ogre to your field in defense position, which I think is really funny when your opponent doesn't know what Andwraith does. Then I play the 1 copy of Clear Wing Synchro Dragon. I just like this card because of how most people don't realize how good it is. And this card has actually won me many games by itself before. And that is, if your opponent activates a monster effect that targets a level 7 or higher monster on the field, an example being your opponent activates Alistair's effect targeting a Mecha buff, for example, then Clear Wing can negate that effect of Alistair, destroy it. And your opponent activates the effect of a level 5 or higher monster, such as Invoked Mechaba to then just negate Clear Wing's Synchro Dragon's effect and then banish it. And then activate Clear Wing's effect to negate Mechaba and destroy it. And then if a monster is destroyed by Clear Wing's effect, either one, it then gains that monster's original attack. So if that were to happen, it would then gain an additional 3,500 attack until the end of the turn. Then I play the 1 copy of Grozza, Tyrant of Thunder. I really like this card because of how it has the effect of, during the main phase, quick effect, you can discard 1 Fiend monster. And if you do, target 1 effect monster your opponent controls. Or you target 1 effect monster your opponent controls, discard a card, and if you do, you can activate 1 of 3 effects, so that Grozza cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects, it can't be destroyed by battle, it can't be targeted by your opponent's card effects. So you can make it have 1 of the 3. I just like how it's actually a negation that makes you discard. Then I play 2 copies of Fabled Valkyris. Valkyris just lets you discard a Fiend. Once per turn you discard a Fiend monster, draw a card. Then I play the 1 copy of Fabled Leviathan. Leviathan has the effect of, if this card on the field is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target up to 3 Fabled monsters in your grave and add them to your hand. So with that, you can add something like Raven, Grimrow, and Cruz. So you can normal summon the Raven, discard the Grimrow, search for any Fable monster you want. So like Cerberus, Lurie, discard those 2 cards, summon back the Grimro, and then whichever one you search for, that summons itself. And then the last card I play is the 1 copy of Shooting Quasar Dragon, just for this card's I'm going to beat your face any card. It just requires 1 Synchro Tuner monster and 1 more non-tuner Synchro monsters. It gets 1 additional attack for each non-tuner Synchro monster or it gets 1 attack for each non-tuner Synchro monster you use. So typically you have 2. And then once per turn, quick effect, if your opponent activates a card or effect, then you can negate that effect if you destroy it. And then if it dies, then you can summon a shooting, I think it's Shooting Star Dragon is what it's called. But I don't play that card, so obviously its destruction effect doesn't matter. And that's it for my Fabled deck. I am planning on having this deck be played against Ice Barrier and Naturia. I just need to finish building those decks and then find people that know how to play those decks. That's it for my Fabled deck. If you have any ideas of how you can improve the deck, any decks I've seen you make, or other ideas of how to improve the deck, feel free to comment those below. And thanks for watching.